Hey, I'm Harmless Poke, a top 100 Genji main and coach, and in this video I will give you a quick and comprehensive guide on how to play the Cyborg Ninja. At his core, Genji is a highly mobile, close-range duelist that shines on maps with lots of high grounds due to his passive, which gives him lots of verticality through wall climb and double jump. His weapon can be used to either chip away at enemies from range with a precise but slow modifier, or to burst down opponents up close using a fan of shurikens with a large spread, which can be fired moderately fast. His kit allows him to take positions that almost no other character can access safely, enabling him to apply pressure from aggressive angles to either expose weaknesses on the enemy frontline and slowly wear it down, or to harass valuable backline targets and potentially even assassinate them given the opportunity. This is all possible because of his two cooldowns, which are flexible tools that can be used offensively or defensively depending on the situation. Deflect is very straightforward to understand, as it does exactly what the name suggests, throwing most forms of damage that hit it back towards the direction you are aiming at, with some exceptions that can bypass it, such as beam type weapons and some projectiles like Sigma's Rock, or anything that's outside its area of coverage, like shots aimed at Genji's back. It also has a neat interaction with melee weapons, parrying the blow to block the damage without deflecting it back. You can use this ability to rotate from one position to the next one, to deal damage in a duel or to get out if things go badly, to catch a crucial cooldown like Ana's Biotic Grenade or even an ultimate like Zarya's Graviton Surge, turn the tides of a fight in an instant, and the list goes on. Similarly to Deflect, Dash is simple to understand but has tons of depth to it. Using it causes Genji to dash forward up to 15 meters, piercing through enemies while dealing 50 damage to them and stopping early if it hits any form of terrain, which is really useful to do on purpose to avoid overshooting your targets when trying to close the gap on them. This ability has a unique property to it, causing it to instantly come off cooldown if Genji participates in an elimination, making him one of the best characters in the game at snowballing an advantage, as he can just chain dash after dash to relentlessly chase the remainder of the enemy team until there is no one left standing. You can use dash to cross dangerous sidelines safely, to disorient an enemy in a duel, to escape from bad situations in an instant, or to get close enough to your opponents to use your secondary fire for a massive burst of damage. The only thing it can't do is delete more from the game. The last tool in Genji's kit is his ultimate, Dragon Blade. Once used, it refreshes his dash cooldown and temporarily changes his weapon into a powerful katana for 6 seconds, dealing 110 damage per swing to all targets within its reach. While active, you gain a 30% speed boost, making it easier to chase targets trying to get outside the reach of this deadly melee weapon. Combine that with Genji's passive mobility and flexible cooldowns, and the result is a hyper-mobile killing machine, capable of wiping out entire teams in an instant given the opportunity. Due to this, enemies will try their best to shut down your ult, giving you all their attention and resources for a chance to live another day. For this reason, it's important to be smart about how to use the ultimate, so make sure to go in 1v5 and complain that your team sucks, am I right? So make use of your kits to find good angles to engage from and maximize your chances of success by going in after your team takes the attention and forces resources from the enemy team, allowing you to outplay the rest of their damage and tools with a well-timed deflect or juke. Now, let's go over his playstyle by going over some high-level gameplay. In this example, we see a composition with a lot of range damage, which means I need to be careful when poking, as I'm at a heavy disadvantage in that category. This is quite a common scenario for Genji, as a lot of characters are stronger than him in mid to long range in exchange for being weaker up close, which is where he thrives. Because of that, my goal is to close the gap to gain the upper hand, which is done by using my mobility to go from cover to cover, take gradually more aggressive angles while staying safe, until eventually I've achieved a good enough setup to make a play. Setting up is only half the story though, as the quality of my play is heavily tied to timing. Go in too early and everyone turns to deal with me, forcing me out immediately if not outright killing me, and thus creating a temporary 5v4 advantage for the enemy team to capitalize on. Go in too late, however, and said 5v4 happened at the start of the fight, causing my team to get beaten up before I do anything, and thus forcing me to do enough on my own using the opening they created to offset the massive disadvantage we started with, which is usually not possible to recover from. For these reasons, it's crucial that I go in right after my tank does. So 1, I'm not a center of attention, and 2, everyone is still in good shape since the fight just started. That's why I have yet to go in so far, since my team was too far back for a solo play to realistically have any sort of impact, which is about to change now. This duel I just took with the Baptiste is a perfect example, as my distraction gave our frontline a resource advantage, which I look to capitalize on once my cooldowns are back and the Baptiste moves up to help his Sigma. Unfortunately, I missed all of my shots, but since I had my cooldowns available and an escape plan ready, I could always get out safely no matter the outcome of my play, allowing me to try again later. This short clip encapsulates Genji's general gameplay loop: poke, set up, then engage. But why do we poke? Didn't I say that Genji is not that good in that department? Well, yes! His projectiles can be very hard to hit at range due to their slow speed, but there are multiple ways of making them more reliable and useful. At the start of the Junkertown match, you can see me mostly just spamming the corners of this piece of cover, since the enemy team is likely to hide behind it between shots to stay safe, essentially just giving your team some hotspots to place your crosshairs at, as those areas will frequently have targets to shoot at. Same thing can be said about this spam angle a little later. Here, we can see me land a ton of poke on their unaware Sigma, as he wasn't trying to dodge my shots. Add to that his larger hitbox, and the odds of my shurikens connecting were very good. Lastly, Genji can play much more aggressive angles than most characters, so while he may not deal as much damage as someone like Ashe, he can do so from positions he can't play, hitting his opponents where they think they're safe and creating crossfires with his team, exposing vulnerabilities on the enemy formation that can be exploited by you and your teammates. That right there is the main reason why we poke. To gain something such as space to set up a strong play, or a resource advantage we can capitalize on, such as forcing out a key defensive cooldown that allows a dive to happen. Notice how poking serves the purpose of enabling the other two steps, meaning that it is valuable but not worth dying for, as it isn't the most important part of your kit. That would be your close range damage, which can be set up through smart pathing if the map gives you that option, saving your dash for another use such as juking or running away, or simply through a dash engage, which is the more common method as it relies on a cooldown rather than specific flank routes, with the downside of using your main mobility cooldown to go in, reducing your options to either push an advantage if the dive goes well, or to run away if it goes badly. So when should you use one or the other? Choosing between them is really easy actually, as you should always use the stronger option when given the opportunity, meaning dash engages are used in all other cases. Alright, but when should you engage? To answer that, let's take a look at a different match. As I come back after respawning, I see that my Junker Queen is trying to push their Junker Queen and Baguettes, who are stuck in this room with no way out. Their situation is certainly dire, but ultimates will soon be available for both sides, giving them a chance to clutch this fight if they see an opportunity. For this reason, instead of waiting for my tank to push in first, I lead the charge, getting a quick burst of damage in before deflecting their attempt to retaliate as I back out, allowing my tank to walk in for free to finish off their support, since they wasted the cooldowns they needed to survive that push trying to punish my engagement, which is exactly the point of it. My goal was never to get a kill on my own there, as it was highly unlikely to happen and attempting it would simply cause me to overextend and die. Instead, I went in to force a reaction, trading resources of my opponents to create a vulnerability that my Junker Queen could then exploit to get a kill, winning the fight. This is called a soft engage, as you go in without committing, as opposed to a hard engage, which is when you do commit to the engagement. Low risk, low reward versus high risk, high reward. Knowing when to soft versus hard engage is a crucial skill to develop, as too much risk all the time will cause you to be dead permanently, but too little risk and you simply won't get enough value to make a positive impact in a match. In general, it's not worth it to take many risks during the poke phase, as no one is really committed, and so there is no rush to make a play before the fight is over. This is why a character like Genji will do a mix of poking and soft engaging early in the fight, as both of these are low risk methods of looking for an advantage that could trigger a hard engage later. That's not to say that you should never hard engage early on, but you need to be really confident that the risk reward is worth it, such as in this example, as I knew the Widowmaker was completely isolated from her team and I have an overwhelming advantage in a close range duel against her, making this a low risk, high reward play. In contrast, this dash commit earlier in the match was a terrible decision, as the enemy team still had all of their defensive resources available to save the baguette from my dive, causing me to fail the assassination and die since I didn't turn a dash reset to get out. Had I not tried to get a pick there, opting for a soft engage instead of a hard one, I could have simply dashed out after forcing out a ton of resources, securing a massive advantage for our team to capitalize on. Alright, let's look at one more clip to talk about the last concept related to engagements: opportunity cost. Here, we just wanna fight, and as I set up on the high ground, I hear the footsteps of the enemy Widowmaker around this tunnel, giving me an idea. Her team isn't there yet, so if I look for a quick duel now and get out soon after, my cooldowns will have refreshed by the time the poke phase might begin, meaning that making the soft engage won't cost me a better opportunity later on, as there won't be any during my 8 seconds of downtime. The same can't be said about this situation though, as making that same play now would prevent me from diving the Widowmaker respawning late that is likely to be isolated once again, which is much more valuable than going in 1v4 and getting forced out immediately. Unfortunately, my Junker Queen goes in 1v5 and dies for no reason, accidentally bringing the enemy team towards the isolated Cassidy and thus ruining my spawn camp play. Thankfully, my Widowmakers finds a trade on their venture and headshots their Junker Queen, forcing a ton of resources and giving me a great opportunity to blade, which I capitalized on as we were unlikely to win if I didn't use it and the risk reward was worth it. As you can see, combination of opportunity cost and risk reward evaluations are what dictate whether I should poke, soft or hard engage, or even just not do anything for a bit to save my resources for a future moment, signing up that next play. The stakes of the fight are also really important, as they change how much risk you're willing to take and even how many ultimates you and your team want to use to try and win that fight. Lastly, the speed at which you expect a fight to end after both teams commit to it also plays a huge role in deciding how you should approach it, as there is very little value in soft engaging to guarantee you can go in again 8 seconds later if one of the teams will already be dead by then, which is why you see me commit my dash on the Zenyatta for some extra damage here, as both teams used a lot of very lethal ultimates at once, bringing a quick end to this exchange. And that's a wrap. Well, kind of. There are some things I didn't fully flesh out during this guide, or at least not directly, that I would like to quickly mention to avoid any potential confusion or unanswered questions. Setting up, for example, is something I ignored on purpose, as it is quite straightforward to understand, and the gameplay does a good job of showcasing it already. If you want to dive a target, you need to be close enough to be able to go on them, as well as having the resources to do so. Most of the magic here is actually tied to other concepts, such as poking to gain the space required for setting up more aggressive plays, or timing, as knowing when you want to go in, which, let's just say, is 10 seconds from now, as that's when your Roadhog will get pushed by their Orisa, alongside how long it will take for you to set up from where you currently are, which in this case is 6 seconds, tells you when you need to stop trading resources with your opponents and start saving them up and or rotating to a certain position so that you are ready at the correct moment. Since I had time to spare here, I could have just poked for a bit before flanking, but I didn't want to lose the surprise factor of my play, so I refrained from doing so. Another concept that's in a similar situation is the leash, a name that essentially just refers to playing around the effective range of your team, which is where they can apply pressure on your opponents and support you by healing and stuff. This is very easy to see in this clip, as this other high ground enables me to make the same plays as the one I'm currently on top of, but positioning there would put me outside the range of my team, preventing us from coordinating with one another. Blade is also an easy topic because what it does is essentially just superpower one specific engagement. Most of the rules still apply, but can or should be slightly adapted. For example, due to its power and therefore higher reward, the enemy team will spend more resources than normal to try and stop you, increasing the risk as well. For this reason, it might be wise to go in later than usual, allowing your team to soak up more resources than what's normally possible to recover from, because enabling your ult to go crazy more than makes up for the extra beating they took. Lastly, for real this time, mechanics. The Genji community is obsessed with one-shot combos, extremely fast blades, and all that flashy stuff. And sure, It's very important to be able to execute the plays you go for, but it's even more important to know what plays you should be going for in the first place. Putting too much emphasis on the wrong thing at the wrong time is what causes so many players to develop bad habits that take years to break and keeps them from climbing the ladder or even from enjoying the game. However, once you have the fundamentals down and are used to Genji's kits, absolutely do practice your aim and ghost dashes and such, as you have built a strong foundation through which you can endlessly develop your skill as a player. If you have any questions regarding this guide or even beyond it, make sure to join the Discord server linked below. You will gain access to a community full of Genji mains helping each other improve, answering questions and reviewing replay codes for free, which, of course, includes me. And if you're looking for paid coaching, I offer that as well, with one of my most recent students going from high platinum to high diamond in a single day after our session. If you have already joined and are looking for more educational content to help improve your gameplay, check out this playlist filled with narrated videos going over my thought process in high level matches.